All right, who wants to start us off with their guiding question? All right, Galen.
So, you know how in the book it says that like everybody knows everybody's business. So I'm curious if Eunice knew about the rape, but didn't say anything because she wants to let you know.
Okay, let's all, and I forgot to mention this when we were writing our questions. Let's all find a spot now in the book that you think answers Dalen's question, because I think this is a really important question about who knows what at the end of this book. Okay. Once you've found something, go ahead and we can start the discussion now. What do you guys think about that?
I have to
I feel like she even knows it's true and that she knows but they don't want to address it and they don't want to like bring attention to it. So they're just like, why don't we just send away the one who's creating instead of like trying to fix it.
they really were trying to get rid of her. They're telling when she got bags and he brought the front, they completely tricked her. She's like, "Ooh." And so by tricking her, by what they're doing, I think they really want to get her. I think this shows that they know. Eunice tries to act like casual, and she's like whispering. She's like, I feel like she definitely knows. And instead of having a conversation about what went on, and talking about it maturely, and actually understanding both sides instead of just one side, they just want to get rid of it.
I also feel like too is when Mitch gets the right diamond process it. He knows that the right is wrong. Backs up.
Mm.
Also, it's this way they're kind of trying to sympathize with the fantasy, and if they can know what happened, then maybe they're, I mean, they are sad to send her away, and they probably don't want to deal with her very much. But I think there's also partly they're realizing maybe her idea of a fantasy is better for her than what she has right now. What's happened, and if we let her live that, she'll be happier than if we try to break it. But what would happen?
Yeah, I wonder if her going to the mental hospital at the end really is a tragedy, or if this would be the very best place for her because of that. Because it's like kind of two ways, right? Like Ali Rose's way of describing it, she's like, they're all just telling her lies to get rid of her. So there's this kind of deep irony at the end that they finally realize that like fantasy can be useful for getting what you want, or the way that Brooklyn's presenting it, which is like they know that she can't live, to quote from the beginning, in this broken world. And so she can maybe trace the visionary path of love at a mental hospital, maybe this fantasy world. If everybody helps maintain it, it's actually the kindest thing you can do for her. Mm.
Inherently selfish, and they want the best for her, but more than that, they want the best for themselves. They are exactly the same as Blanche, where Blanche tries to have her own fantasy. They're trying to have their own fantasy by getting rid of her, like how Blanche got rid of her past.
It's like doing the right thing for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, they're doing the exact same thing. So my question is, do you think Blanche in their shoes would be the same? I feel like Blanche would probably like instead of like sending them off to the hospital or like she'd probably just like work them into her own fantasy. Oh my gosh, yeah, no, we love the things too. And like kind of, I don't know, hold on, give me a minute, I'm not thinking.
Didn't she kind of try to do the same thing? Like she tried to turn Stella against Stanley from the moment she got into that house, saying, oh, he's a different, I guess Stella says he's a different species, but kind of conspiring with her sister about like what a unqualified man this is for her.
She was just the one who didn't win. The other side won, but they're both competing.
Yeah. Remember, we're taking notes too on the so that you can use it in the prompts. Sorry, I should have reminded you. Where do you think the baby comes into things?
I feel like being seen as like a single mother is kind of like shameful. And so the baby is kind of a way for Stanley to kind of get Stella to stay with him. Because like if she were to leave, she'd be seen as like he could spread the rumors that she had the baby out of wedlock. And or that she's like a whore. And so it's kind of a way to get her to stay with him. Kind of like almost like he's trapping her.
Yeah, and trap is the word that like Blanche keeps using too.
I agree with you, so that she continually tries to like tell Stella about all the bad things he's doing, but she I don't know if she stops, but it's not as much because she's in this because she wants to keep the baby.
Mm.
Like before she was pregnant, she felt like she could have left, but now, now that she is pregnant and she's had the baby, it's like she wants that complete family, like ideal of like a mother and a father and a child and like that kind of family dynamic. And she knows that if she leaves, like there's not a chance that like she would really get it, even if it's like even if Stanley's like still a horrible person, like she still has that.
That's fascinating because Stanley gets to like be this complete whole person sort of on his own, and it always talks about that, and all the girls are just like auxiliaries is the word it uses, right? And so his individuality creates that completeness, but you're saying that like Stella then depends on a nuclear family to have that same kind of completeness as a woman.
Oh,
yeah.
I was gonna say, it does kind of seem to me that Stella, to a degree, is upholding her own sort of fantasies almost as much as Blanche is just maybe not as like brazen about it.
Mhm.
And she's willing to sacrifice so much just to uphold this like nuclear ideal. That's definitely what the experience of the book.
Kind of going along with the same topic we're talking about, but focusing more on the comparison between the book and the play itself and then the film that we watched. So at the end, if I recall correctly, I believe Stella ended up meeting Stanley in the film.
She kind of hints at it. She's like, never again.
Yep, and then
Yeah.
she just walks away while he's, screaming and the like. But I'm just kind of curious as to why the film chose to do that and the play itself hasn't. Like it kind of says on the back, the dark ending of play is unmitigated, but in the film they do mitigate it somewhat. So was that just to promote I don't know, a better conception to the audience to create some sort of happy ending? And if so, why in our society do we constantly need that reassurance from a happy ending?
Right.
What a good question.
At the end of this like book, it goes when like Stella is like heaving and she walks up line and she's like incoherent. Stanley kneels beside her and figures out the thoughts. He's yeah, he's not wait, what was he saying? Crap, what yeah, he at the end of this play, he's just doing the same thing he's done, even when she's in pain. Yes. And I think like this is so tragic. So tragic. So tragic. All he wants is body and someone to care about how she's feeling. And in the movie, yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think just the intents of the two works are different. Like the movie, I think would advocate more for empowerment, and I think that the book is advocating pretty heavily for cynicism or just realism.
That's an interesting way to put it because it means that the movie is kind of aligning itself with Blanche a little bit more, saying, oh, wouldn't it be nice to live in the fantasy world where Stella leaves Stanley and we all learn lessons from literature and we internalize themes and then we can change our lives for the better. And the book is saying, no, Stanley's vision is going to win out here.
I think it's interesting Stanley's motivation because like there are times like where he seems to be like he can be so toothless, like he seems to be so comforting Stella, like when she's so sad about Blanche and all this stuff, and he's just like, it's okay, baby, like everything's gonna be okay, or like all that. And then there's other times when he's literally like hitting her. And I think his motivation to be with her is a lot about his control over her emotions, even when he's comforting. Like that's his another form of his control because he's able to be the one to bring her out of that and like that helplessness when she can't do that by herself. And when like the other hand, when she's angry and stuff, he can control her with his anger. And so it's just either way, he has the upper hand.
That was all leaving. Look on that last page because Allie Rose pointed us to one disturbing thing, which is that in her moment of emotional vulnerability, he's like going for the opening of her blouse, right? But look, the other disturbing thing is right before it, where she sobs with inhuman abandon. There is something luxurious in her complete surrender to crying now that her sister is gone.
She's pure. So wait, is
That's a strange way to describe it. Yeah, this is Stella. Stella.
pure? That's why, because he sees, because like society or at least Stanley would see her as being so pure in this moment,
Mm,
and getting that pureness is so
What do you mean by she's pure? Like the luxurious sobbing? Why is that? Or the inhuman abandon? Why does that make her pure? That's interesting.
I mean, that came for like on the ground, not like over herself, just like on her knees,
Mm-hmm.
like kind of just sitting there, like looking up, like just tears, very gracefully crying, not like heavy sobbing, gracefully crying like she can't process. She looks pretty.
So almost like pure, kind of like blank. Like she doesn't have, it says like the inhuman abandon, complete surrender, like she's not all caught up in the trappings of society in that moment. She is just like pure emotion.
I think it just kind of builds upon the themes of like primalism and like animalistic behavior, because we talk about Stanley's behavior almost in terms of like social Darwinism. It's like he's the dominant force, he'll win out. And it seems like he's kind of the character in the book that's portrayed as being really animalistic. But then in the end, Stella is sort of reduced to being almost animalistic when it describes her as having these emotions that are almost inhuman.
Mhm.
And I think it just kind of builds upon this really cynical view of the world that eventually that our primal based desires will win out.
The luxuriousness, I think, is an interesting word there.
Like decadent almost to like relish that emotion.
Mm-hmm.
It also kind of seems, no, you go ahead, okay. Like the fact that it mentions how luxurious it's called, that makes it seem like it's fake almost. So like, or like fabricated, I guess. It's like, on one hand, she's like really sad that her sister is gone, but on the other hand, her sister is gone and she can like finally live out her own fantasy with Stanley. And so she's kind of like trying to like portray to other people that like, yeah, she's really sad that her sister is gone. But in her mind, she's like, oh gosh, finally.
Mhm.
Yeah, I should take it in a different response and say that she's luxurious. It's like she's back with her. I like that.
But either way, your sister is this like reason for artifice.
Also, way to look at it is that her crying is luxurious to Stanley. In this very twisted way that, like now that Blanche is gone and her emotion is just like all out there, she can't really attach her emotions to Blanche anymore and have like that sister bond that Stanley felt like they were conspiring against him. And now all of that emotion is just like it makes her a blank canvas kind of, that he can like provide himself, like that she can attach her emotions to him.
Yeah. And so that kind of goes with that idea of purity too. Like she's without alignments. She's without like allegiances to anyone else.
It gives him an opportunity to like make himself even more.
Yeah. Any other questions we want to get to in the last 2 minutes? Let's clean up. We're pretty close here to the end. Okay, so next time in class, we don't have any activities going. Oh, I meant to get you a major works thing. We'll have to do that another time. So the whole class is pretty much going to be this kind of a structure where we're going to work through some of the major themes in the novel. And then by the end, or the play, by the end, I'm hoping we can come up with a list of themes that will allow us to respond to a lot of different prompts with this particular play in regards to the test. So that's kind of next time, big discussion day. All right, we're good. Let's clean up.
No, it's